Welcome everybody tonight to Fascinating Fae. If you are new to the show, this is a quick note to let you know that the audio quality in this very first episode is not good. The audio quality is substantially better and professional, starting in episode 2 and everything beyond. Feel free to jump ahead to episode 5, 6, 22, 27, or 35 to 36 if you want to get addicted. There are now over 60 episodes featuring everyday people that have encountered fairies. Be prepared to have your mind blown.
Well, fairies are pure energy. The fairies are in their evolution. They are leaps and bounds ahead of us. Humans, I think that some humans think that you're a toy, and that they are around for humankind's amusement. Nothing to go from the truth.
Yes, and many children see them too. About 75% of the world's children today are being born with etheric vision. And when your children talk with people and have daydream playmates, the chances are they are actually speaking to some of these people, because these angels or angelic forces or nature spirits, as they're often called, will often make themselves seen.
Whatever it is, it looks every bit like a fairy and very little like anything else.
But seriously, it kind of looks like a fairy. It just kind of doesn't look like your standard moth.
I know that the paranormal is real. Listen.
But I wasn't going to make this video until I looked a little bit closer and I realized after it lands behind my bench, it disappears. And it just vanishes. And in fact, I went outside to look, to try to find it, to see if it was trash, to see if it was a bug, to see if it was a leaf, like trying to figure out what it could be, and it was gone. It just vanished.
What's that? Yeah. What's what? Yeah, look. Right up there. Insect or something.
Is that an insect? Let's have a look. What is it?
I don't know. Oh my god!
Ugh.
What happens to people who cut down fairy thorns?
Did you see it? Huh? Did you see it?
Yeah, me and him saw it.
What'd you see?
It was like a big creature.
A big creature?
Yeah, like around 10 feet tall.
I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard?
The paranormal is real. Is it? The paranormal is real.
Okay, hi everybody. Welcome tonight to Fascinating Fae. This evening, we are going to welcome Rod from Nevada. Rod is kind enough to share with us his experiences with the Fae. Rod, I know that you were talking with me a moment ago about some of the experiences that you've had, and I know you mentioned as well that your wife is with you tonight. May I ask your wife's first name, please? Karen. Welcome, Karen. Thank you very much for being with us here as well. So, Ron, for the audience, if you could just walk us into your first experience with a Fae, and just tell us as much detail what you were doing that day, what you were doing at that time in your life, whatever is necessary to help people understand. And then if you could, just walk people into your first experience and any other experiences that followed, please. Yeah. I was
working at the time for Alameda County, and I had some time, free time, and I used that free time for meditation. I began meditating in 1995. At that time, probably half hour a day, and worked my way up to actually 2 to 3 hours a day by the time the fairies came into my life in 2002. At this time, I was having lucid dreams. A lot of times I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking that I was actually somewhere else, until I actually was someplace else. That was my first waking dream. Down the street, sitting on a bar stool looking at a clock, and the clock said 11:31. I rolled over, and I woke at that time. I looked at the clock on my nightstand and it said 11:31. So I knew I was in a state of traveling or waking. But at that point, I really felt kind of, I guess you could say giddy. Everything was really new to me. Meditation, felt like I was pushing the limits. I was starting to have dreams about bringing on cartoon figures, mainly, and I would awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I would see cowboys and Indians on the wall. I would see things like detectives, the old 1940 gumshoe, trench coats, big brim hat. And these figures were, 3-4 inches tall sometimes. They got as big as 3 to 4 feet. And it's kind of hard to describe. At the time, I really thought I was kind of teetering on the edge of craziness, insanity. I questioned just about everything I did. I tried talking to people without telling them what was going on, and that was really difficult, trying to get the affirmation that I wasn't crazy. But there wasn't anybody to talk to. I think the first experience was I awoke one morning, and it was probably dawning. It's 5 o'clock, and I was sitting in the middle of my seat, and in my room had filled with boards, and all kinds of sizes, pinhead to grapefruit size, and I'm guessing maybe a couple thousand, and they were just swirling about, and I had 2 of them approaching. They were about quarter size. Well, one had a blue tinge to it, blue aura. And as they approached, I stuck my hand out to them, and they stopped and went backward. And so I pulled my hand back into myself and held it there for a minute. They approached me again, and I stuck my fingers out real slow, and they connected to my index finger and my middle finger, and they sit there on the tips of my fingers. And when they docked on my hand, I began to feel all kinds of things inwards: laughter, love. Probably love most of all, and then a lot of laughter. Well, at the time I was running SETI, home that's a search for extraterrestrial intelligence from the UC Berkeley. I was running that on my computer. And the first thing I thought when I saw these orbs, the first thought was that they were from outer space. And when they docked on my hand, I asked, are you from outer space? When I asked him about that, I felt laughter again, and they backed off my fingers, and they went side by side in tandem, and I took that into no, and then they came and they stopped my fingers again. At this point, I can't remember the names I was asking. It was so silly. I really had thought that I had connected with somebody from outer space and the extraterrestrials, because I've had experiences with thoughts. And that was more realistic for me than anything. And at that point, I guess I sat in this for maybe an hour trying to talk to them and questioning and answering. And I didn't know who they were or what they were. At that point, I guess I started to vanish. I ran out of questions to ask. I was feeling kind of stupid. Anyway, they disappeared from the room, and that afternoon, after work, I went down to a metaphysical store, and I asked the fellow behind the desk if there was anybody in the store that I can talk to about some things that happened. And he said, "Yeah, I'll be more than happy to talk to you." He says, "My name's Starker." And I thought to myself, boy, that's kind of a silly name. Orange Berry. He says, "Well, go ahead and tell me what happened or what's been happening." So I started telling him about the cartoons on the wall, my meditation, and the orbs that had appeared that morning. And he sat there and he listened real intently, which surprised me because I thought I was sounding really kind of crazy. Anyway, he says, "Ron," he says, I think what you have at your house are fairies." And I thought for a minute, fairy. I came in here asking you for help, and I'm now thinking this, and you want to talk about fairy. Up to this point, I'd never even dreamed about fairy. Tinkerbell of Walt Disney movie close to talking about the fairy. Anyway, they continued on, and he said, "Well," he says, "do you want fairies in your life?" And I said, "Yeah, that might be fun." He said, "Well, here's a couple of things you can do. You should set something out for them, a treat, something sweet to eat, or a flower, something that you want to gift to them." And guess that night I went by the grocery store and I got this big chocolate chip cookie, and I put that on my headboard, and knowing that Storm had told me that don't eat it, it's just a gift, and don't expect it to be gone, and it's just the whole idea of giving them something. And so I gave them the big cookie. I went to a Google store. That was the But the next thing I gave them was a little plate that was shaped like a silver angel and put some glitter in it and a little black stroke, or lily. Anyway, set those things down on my headboard and took a couple of days, I guess. I woke up in the morning about 3 o'clock or so, and there were a bunch of little figures moving around my headboards, and my headboard was a mirror headboard with oak, big oak piers, and I could see their reflection in the mirror, and some of them had butterfly wings, some of them had dragonfly wings. I guess mainly butterfly wings, dragonfly. I didn't see the other one. Anyway, I was watching one butterfly wing. They were hovering above the cookie and hovered probably for 15 minutes maybe. And they would draw down piece of cookie, sit there for, a minute or so, then raise up about 6-7 inches, and the other ones would come. They'd sit over the cookie, and then they would leave, and a couple more would come, and they would sit over the cookie. Anyway, I didn't really know what was going on, but I was just enjoying the show. These little, the ones with butterfly wings were 1.5 inches, and the ones with dragonfly wings were an inch and a half. They were two-dimensional, color and book outline, moved really, really fast. As far as them hovering, their wings were flapping. I could actually hear the wing, the little buzzing sound. And it got pretty loud because there were, not at all, maybe 10 of them initially. And so the buzzing was pretty loud. And I just watched them over the cookie, and some of them would fly over to the little angel and take a look at the angel. And he felt kind of gleeful, happy, but they were enjoying what I gave them. And probably all of maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And then they kind of just disappeared into the mirror. When I say they disappeared into the mirror, they went actually through the mirror, and they look on. To me, that was exciting, watching them go through a solid object, and then being happy that I'd given them something that they really liked. That was my very first encounter with the fairies in their fairy form. And so it was, I think I heard somebody say incredible. It was all that and then
wow. Thank you very much for sharing your first encounter with so much detail. I would like to ask a couple of questions, if it's okay with you. In my own encounter, there was also a light, a colored light. And I'm just wondering, for the audience, could you do your best to describe the bluish light, as you put it, please?
Well, the bluish light preceded her. Her name was Cassandra. I later found out. And the blue light would precede her into the room. So it was her aura. And then she would appear in that light. Or if it was an orb that she was in, the orb would have a blue tinge to it. And then the orb would turn into her. So physically, she was able to become that orb. And then they would connect to another orb, and another one, and another one, and another one, until the orb got to be grapefruit size. Then the orb would split off and become cartoon on the wall. It was pretty amazing. Still there, but amazing that it's been 22 or 23 years, and nothing ceases to amaze me with them. They still visit. They're still here and live with us. Sections they visit. They visit my bedroom at night with the cartoons on the wall, and that's a gratitude thing for us giving them treats and a place to live.
Thank you for describing the light. It's hard, in my experience, to describe the light that is associated with these experiences to other people. It's difficult to give it the right word, and I think you did a good job there with, especially, I'd like to ask, what do you mean when you say the cartoon images on the wall? Because I would like to just understand what you mean by that a bit better, if I could, please.
Well, they have the ability to shape, and what they do is they put on little skits on the wall, and so they put on from the simplest little cartoons like you might see on Sesame Street, or some of they've got channels right now for smaller kids. They're real simplistic, maybe Japanese type cartoons. Not a lot of detail in them. Big-eyed children and fish, little tiny fish. And then if they do things as complicated as cattle drive, you all have cattle on the wall and complete with dust and everything else. The orbs or the bubble that they emit off the wall to make it look like dust are like pinhead size, a little bit bigger, but they're floating all behind them, so it looks like dirt or dust. And there's cowboys, and they're chasing them on horses. They have the ability to make themselves appear in any form you wish. For a long time in my headboard, I had an aquarium at night. And so I'd wake up in the middle of the night and my mirror would be filled with fish, complete with a deep sea diver wearing one of those bell uniforms with air hoses, and the air hose would be emitting little bubbles in the water. You could see again, you could see the air bubbles, and that would be the smaller fairies. Everybody got in the act. So I would see the cowboys and their cows and their and the Indians sometimes, and then they would actually transform back into fairies off the wall right before my eyes. So I knew what I was seeing.
Thank you for explaining the cartoons on the wall, and thank you for your insights into how they're accomplishing that. This is all very new to me in a lot of ways, and so I really appreciate you sharing your experiences so honestly and straightforward. Not to talk about my own experience too much, but just to relate to what you're saying. There were elements of my experience that are very difficult to describe rationally. and to maybe a better point on it, as the audience listens to you speak, some people will have a difficult time conceptualizing or relating to what you are describing.
Sure.
And if I were to share some of the elements of my encounter, I would also sound a similar way. And so I feel that, it's valuable for the listener to hear all the different components that make up an encounter with the Fae from as many people as possible, so that they can perhaps hear something similar to their own experience and be brought some comfort, or they can, help myself, you, and others on this journey of understanding in attempting to understand what's going on here exactly. Can I ask another question, if you don't mind? You mentioned hearing the fairies, and I also had a very strong auditory component to my experience. If you could you do your best to describe how they sounded for the audience, please?
Well, initially the wings is what I heard when they were hovering above the chocolate chip cookies, and it was just a soft buzzing sound, maybe a tenth of what a bee might sound like. So if you had 10 fairies, it would sound like a bee. I heard, all I can tell you is, as far as their little voices go, I've heard them once, and that was early on when I first met them, and I could not understand what they were saying. Since that day, it's all been telepathic communication, and they had a lot of patience with me as far as telepathy. We started out with them on my face, my forehead, and the sides of my cheeks. So they would be in those, depending on what they wanted to say or they wanted me to see, they would come up to me and they would land on my right eye, and that would be to me to look to my right, and then or to the left. Of course, if they're on my left eye. They would land on my ear if they wanted me to listen. Yes was always a vibration on top of the forehead. I've lost all my hair on my forehead, so it got plenty of landing. The conversation, a lot of times when they were teaching me telepathy at first, I had a difficult time with it, because of being human, I want to talk. I've learned that that's not all so important when you're dealing with something that's of a spiritual nature, and that hails from a different place.
Thank you very much for that additional information. Also, something that I have just reflected on as I was listening to you speak, also that you mentioned earlier, was about how when you first experienced the fairy for the first time in your room, the feeling of excitement and elation. Also very difficult in my experience to describe that in comparison to other excited or happy feelings. So, I've had some pretty big moments in my life, and I've had some really big wins and things that are, truly like euphoria generating. However, the feeling of my Fae experience was, it was the best way that I could describe it, and I don't know. I'll ask you yourself for your own feelings on your experience of excitement. But it was almost like I tuned into it being underway. like I, as my consciousness all of a sudden tuned in to the incredible excitement that I was feeling, almost as an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I perceive that is that the excitement or the buzz was happening at a pre-perception level first, and then my perception caught up with it, is the best way I can describe that. For you, I'm just curious as to how the experience of feeling excited upon seeing them was, and I have not seen one since, so I'm just curious if that took a while to go away, they get used to.
It never goes away. There's an element to the story that most people don't understand right away, and some will never understand. And part of that meeting with you and that elation, there's an undercurrent of unconditional love they share with you right away. And, it's a lot of, that love is something that most people, no, not most, I can't say that many people will never feel in their life. They'll never have a person in their life that will love them like that. Unless you do, and unless you know what that is, then you'll never know it.
I really think that you put that in a beautiful way. Thank you for saying that way, sir. I appreciate that a lot. Ron, for the audience, just before we wrap things up tonight, I do want to ask you something, which I ask everybody that comes on the show. There's no wrong answer, but the question is sort of as follows. What do you think fairies are? And part of that same question is, where do they come from?
Well, fairies are pure energy. They're on the track that we should be on, and in our everyday growth, in everyday growth, we should be shooting for the highest spiritual being that we could be at that time. And a lot of us are going to find that growth in meditation. A lot of us are going to find it in religion. It comes to us all different ways. I've never been a religious person. And I was really never a spiritual person until I began meditating in the 90s. And so, I had to grow into that. The fairies are in their evolution, they are leaps and bounds ahead of us. Humans, I think that some humans think that they're a toy, and that they are around for humankind's amusement. Nothing to be further from the truth. Fairies are very intelligent. They're a lot smarter than we'll ever be. I'm never going to reach the spiritual aspect of my being that the fairies are today. I won't see that in my lifetime. I'm 73. If I began this at 3 years of age, and lived to be 100, I still wouldn't see it. So, the fairies have been on Earth for 60,000 years. They came here from Sirius. They were put here by the Syrians. They were salted on the Earth to take care of the life that existed in the wildlife, the plant life. That's why they take it really hard, seeing what we've done to this planet. They love us. They love us dearly, but they don't trust. They're on the fringes of the third dimension. It's where they live. I don't understand the part where, some people that have fairies in their life, they talk about Middle Earth. I can't talk about Middle Earth because I don't know anything about it. What I know about the fairies, they live with me. And every day I have hundreds, thousands. Every Thursday I get a new bat coming from somewhere. You say you live in out of the States. Fairies are everywhere. Every inch of this planet, you're going to find fairies. I don't care where you're at. A lot of people think you have to be in Ireland or Scotland, England. Nothing's further from the truth. You slip outside, and you have to be careful what you step on. They can change shape. The bee that you save from a water fountain might be a fairy. The butterfly you see going by you and flying really close to your face, that might just be a fairy saying hello. They have that ability to become anything that you can imagine. So, I just, for people that don't have that experience that we've had, and they never have it, I can't tell you that yes, you will, or no, you won't. But just know, the fairies do love us. And they love us unconditionally. They want to love us. But Yamakai has done the fairy so bad. Ever since the witch trials in the 1700s, 1500s, I guess, 15 to 17. They've been treated really bad. And we talk to a religious person, and they'll tell you that fairies are malevolent, and you shouldn't have them in your life. And, there's nothing good about it. And I beg to differ. There's everything good about it. I'll take the fairies' love any day over you.
Ron, I'm with you on that. My experience was one of pure happiness, joy, laughter, love. Like it also left me for this entire time since it happened in 2019 with a totally changed perspective on everything in a positive way. I want to let you know, I've spoken to a few people now for this podcast, and of the people I've spoken to, I really feel quite strongly that you have seen fairies and that you do coexist with fairies. I say that just because my own experiences are reflected when I hear you speak, and I get quite intense goosebumps at certain junctures of your sharing. And that only happens in my experience when something is very true and very close to home. And we are not here, you, me, anyone really, to convince a listener that fairies exist or not. We're here to tell our experiences as they happened in truth. And I believe that those people listening who are able to receive and understand will, and those that are closed off and don't have a place for this type of knowledge or search won't. And I don't necessarily know that this podcast is here to do the job of convincing anyone of anything, for that matter. So the way that you shared your story is very beautiful and very complete. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do that with myself and the audience tonight. Unless you had any other questions or comments for the audience, we might just call that a really great show for the night. And thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to share your experiences with us.
But I appreciate, your time. Right this moment, there are probably 50 or 60 of them gathered around this area. And they're in a real joyful mood at the moment. Anytime that you can talk about the fairy and get the word out that they are here, and they are here, that they were given here. They were given here. And they want us to know that they're here to work with us. And like, they cherish the ground that we walk on. Literally. Just know that anything you see out there that's alive and breathing could be a fairy. So, don't step on that cockroach.
Very good advice for everyone listening. And for all of our human and non-human listeners tonight, I'd like to thank Ron for coming on the Fascinating Fae podcast. Ron, thank you so much. I wish you a great evening, and I'll be in touch with you when this episode is ready for publication.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you, Gary.
Good night.
All right, well, that's it for tonight, everybody. A big thanks to Ron for coming on the show and explaining his experiences with the Fae. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, email me at encounters@fascinatingfae.com. Thanks, everybody, and have a great night.
Firefly, oh how you caught my eye. In the darkness of night, I look to you for light. Memories aren't what they used to be. We're changing endlessly into the new tonight. So look and listen, don't worry what you're missing out on isn't for you anyway, you see. And get to living with the hand that you've been given, darling. Promise that you will remember me. In melody, you are a mystery. How you capture me every once in a while. In lullaby, you make me wonder why the days are going by. Still I'm a child. So look and listen, don't worry what you're missing out on isn't for you anyway, you see. And get to living with the hand that you've been given, darling. Promise that you will remember me. In misery, why won't you let me be? Can't you set me free? Good this time, tranquility. Why won't you stay with me, keep me company? If you would, I would be fine. So look and listen, don't worry what you're missing out on isn't for you anyway, you see. And get to living with the hand that you've been given, darling. Promise that you will remember me. Firefly, oh how you caught my eye. In the darkness of night, I look to you for light.